What would you do if your child came home and told you that he or she no longer believes in something you hold very dear, like religion? There are cases among diaspora families where kids just come and tell their parents that, hey, I no longer believe in God. I don't want to have anything to do with religion. How about if your child came and told you their truth about their sexual orientation? Especially if they told you something you were not expecting. How would you respond to that? Well, good morning, friends. Today is actually my birthday. And as a village kid, a village guy who was raised in the village, the day actually means very little. It doesn't mean a whole lot, but I truly appreciate the positive and the kind sentiments coming from people in my circle. In fact, I'm really, really grateful for Minodedi particularly, who this year got me the best birthday gift. And I'll show you that in a video coming up soon. I wasn't expecting it, and she really surprised me. In fact, her gift to me came a few days early. And so it's one of those days that I think I'm turning something, but I'm in the middle of life. At this point, I think maybe the years ahead of me less than the year behind, or about the same, but who knows. Today's video is not for everybody, as you can tell. So I want to say, and I want to repeat again, today's video is not for everybody, especially those of my fans who are more on the conservative end of things. Folks who are a lot more sensitive when it comes to social issues of all kinds. So if that describes you, please, this is a time that I'm gonna ask you to just log off, watch something else, go look for Jael, Lynn Gugi, or the other friends of mine. Go watch them, and then we'll catch up back in the next video. So don't blame me if you see something or if you hear something that is going to rub you the wrong way. Today's video is not for all of my fans, please. Again, I don't want you to have your feelings hurt, nor do I want you to say something in the comment section that will get you in trouble. This video is not for everybody. So if you're conservative, especially on social issues, please log off and let's go chat in the next video. I usually produce about 3 to 4 videos a week. There's plenty of stuff that we can connect on. So anyway, that said, today we are in Long Beach, as you can tell. This is Ocean Boulevard, for those of you who know Long Beach really well. It's about maybe 3-4 miles from our house. And so there's always something happening in our neighborhood. And so I was coming out to just have a quiet morning, just walk around, and then I ran into a parade. So I'm going to walk around and bring you along as we observe, interact with our neighbors, and see what these folks are up to. And in between, I might also show you a few houses here, like the ones you're watching, that may be interesting. A lot of these homes are very expensive, but I also suspect they're very old. And as a Kenyan, I don't particularly care for the exteriors, but the interiors, many of them are so well done. The exteriors, not so much my taste. So I'm going to be showing you some of that. And I find myself doing that every time I walk in different neighborhoods. If I see a house that catches my attention, I'll film it. So anyway, come along with me. And as we do that, I want to talk with you about the challenge of raising children in cultural climates that are radically different from what we are accustomed to. And this is not necessarily a diaspora issue. I think this is a problem that all parents, Americans, Kenyans, from every part of the world, deal with at some point. Some people seem to navigate these things really well, and many of us really struggle. And when we fail, the consequences can be quite profound. And that's what I want us to talk about. But before we unpack all of that, welcome to the wonderful city of Long Beach. As I mentioned earlier, this is my adopted home when I'm away from Karating. I spent a few months here and then a few months back in Karating. But when I'm here, I take every single day to enjoy everything that Long Beach gives. So I remember the first time I came to Long Beach when I was interviewing. This is one of the streets that they brought me in, and it was so beautiful. I just fell in love with Long Beach. It's been more than 12 years since I moved over here, and I love it. Of course, not as much as Karating. And if you're joining us for the first time, Karating is my hometown in Western Kenya, in Kisumu. That's where I live. So I go back and forth. But my plan is to eventually move back home permanently when everything lines up. And so in the process of doing that, I help diasporans settle in Kenya. I help diasporans with their projects in Kenya. We've got architects, we've got builders, we've got interior designers, we've got landscapers. So if you need help with any of those, reach out and I'll connect you with whoever matches your needs. So anyway, just so you know, I still have lots of videos from Kenya. So even before I return in a couple of days, I'll still be showing you a few videos that I shot in different parts of Kenya. So don't be surprised to see a mix of both California videos and videos from Kenya, because even though I'm here in Long Beach now, I have plenty of videos that I shot a while back that have been processed and scheduled to come out in the next couple of days. So we'll be going back and forth. So stay tuned. You will still be able to enjoy our typical Kenyan content. So let's begin with the disclaimers, because again, this is a very sensitive issue. Number one, every single time as a parent, I always start on the assumption that all the parents I run into are doing the best they can with the knowledge they have, with the resources they have to raise kids as best as possible. I also assume that it is not my role to tell people how to raise their kids. I talk about these things, but it's not my job to tell you how to raise your kids. That's on you. And so my opinions about parenting should be considered as uneducated or perspectives, because I don't do research on parenting. That's not what I research on. So you don't have to listen to me. Please don't. These are just random things that I run into. And so when I come here, I simply present them as is. So don't quote me and don't take this as gospel truth, because again, it simply reflects a very small group of folks that I interact with. But in general, though, all parents struggle with raising kids in different cultural climates, particularly those of us who were born and raised in the village, and then we move to diaspora. We get our kids either in diaspora or we move with kids who are also born at home. And then we somehow have to figure out how to navigate these multiple cultural climates. And there can be differences around generations. Obviously, your kids are not going to be the same generation as you. We raise kids in very different geographical locations, with very different social systems, very different political systems, and of course they are schooled in radically different systems. So some of these differences that we run into with our kids can be minor and often navigated easily. However, some of them can be quite profound, particularly again for those of us who were raised in Africa, and then we find ourselves in places like Long Beach, and our kids are going to grow up in the neighborhood that you're looking at. So when kids and parents differ, it's a common experience, particularly as they grow. As the kids grow, it's typical for them to develop new or slightly different perspectives than we as parents. And these differences can manifest in a variety of areas, such as religion, sexual orientation, perspectives about Africa, career choices, personal values, and I'm talking about things like individualism versus collectivism, issues around sex and dating, marriage, affection, living arrangement, politics, and so many other topics. So again, depending on how you are raised, some of these issues may be a big deal, others may not necessarily be that big of a deal. So let's break it down and let me show you how this becomes a challenge for diaspora parents raising kids in these environments. Number one, on the question of religion, kids may question the beliefs that parents hold. They may be, and many of them often are less religious. Or I've seen cases where kids just no longer believe in the things we've taught them, or the things we believe. The kids will tell you that I don't believe in God. Or when they hear us talk about some of the biblical stories from the Old Testament, and the things that we honestly talk about that sound quite a bit fantastic. And I'm using that to refer to the word fantasy. So the kids begin to question these things when they say rational thought doesn't seem to apply. And then when they get connected with people with other faiths, then you have a kid who probably wants to switch either from one religion to another or from one denomination to another. And those things can be very tough for parents, especially those of us who hold on to religion. It can be really difficult. And so when these things pop up, they can often bring tensions in a family. Then the issue of sexual orientation is one that we don't talk about. In the African diaspora community, we often don't talk about. But it is very much present as it is in every other part of the world. I know people in my own circle whose kids have emerged as identifying differently in terms of sexual orientation. And for sure, this is not an easy topic for many African parents. So when a kid discloses, sometimes you can tell, even without them disclosing, you can tell that their orientation is different. And this is a very tough subject for African parents who are raised in very conservative, socially conservative neighborhoods. I'd be curious to see how folks navigate that, but I know it's not one of those things that we have not figured out a good way to go about it. And then, of course, when it comes to perspective about Africa, almost, I would say not almost, but a good number of folks who are born and raised in Africa have very tender memories about the experience of being an African. And that's one of the reasons we always want to go back to Africa, because we have some really good memories having been raised in those environments. Our kids, in many cases, don't always share those attachments. And so, unfortunately for us, many of them get to learn about Africa in the same way as kids from diaspora. And unfortunately, a lot of what you'll see about Africa out there isn't always the best. It's often this pathologized, exotic world where, at its best, Africa is seen more like a travel destination where you simply go and look at animals, look at poverty and things like that, and then go back to the real world where you need to live. They don't think of Africa as a place where you can live with dignity and be very comfortable. That is at its best. At its worst, Africa is portrayed, of course, as a terrible, war-torn, poverty-stricken area. In fact, middle-class Africa is almost invisible. Many of American friends, when they come to visit, they are often shocked as to what they find on the ground because they don't get to see what middle-income Africa looks like. They are shocked to find that the quality of life that a middle-class African lives is often way better than what they've had in diaspora. So, our kids may have different perspectives, and I've seen some of my friends' kids who would say, no, you just go home, just go visit Africa, but I'm not traveling. I know right now I've got friends whose kids will not go to Africa, either based on what they've seen or based on some terrible experiences they've had. And so if you travel one time and the kids have a terrible experience, I hope that does not discourage them from opening up their minds as to what is possible in Africa. Those single visits that are not often successful can be very harmful. And that's part of the reason why I travel a lot with my kids. I spend a lot of time at home so that they get a more rounded perspective of what Africa is and what our home really is. And again, sometimes we differ in terms of the values that we hold. I remember growing up in Africa, collectivism was a big deal. You were always raised to think of the group first. As a kid, if my parents came back home and my younger siblings went missing, the first person who would get in trouble would be me. Even if I did nothing, I would get punished for the sins of my younger siblings. And it never made sense, but as I grew older, I just came to understand that was their way of instilling collective responsibility. Now, our children, especially for those of us who live in the Western world, are raised in this world where the individual comes first. It's me first. And so some of them really struggle to understand when we try to teach them how collective responsibility. So even when it comes to things like sending money home, they don't understand why we send so much money home to support folks when we could be doing other things, because the world that they live in does not respect collectivism, at least in the same way we do. So these things can be tough. The one that I know gets thorny again is issue of dating, sex, and all that. I can only imagine, my kids are still much younger, I'm sure you've seen them, but I can only imagine a scenario where my daughter, maybe at 19, comes home with a boyfriend in my house, and they're going to spend a night, and I'm also in the same house. I would struggle with that. A lot of African parents would probably throw you out of the window by just a mere thought of of a young person of that kind spending a night in the same house as a parent. Or there are also diaspora parents who still hold on to beliefs about their kids needing to marry people from their tribe or people from their community and things like that. Or we still have those problems. The same problems we have at home, we bring them here. Unfortunately, for many of our parents, we don't have a choice because our kids are out there meeting everyone and everybody. Yeah, so the people still struggle with those kinds of things. So our values can be different, which unfortunately ultimately brings tensions in homes and can actually discourage our kids from buying into the African dream. So again, like I say, don't listen to me. I don't have all the answers. I don't have any answers. My kids are still young, but I'll really be curious to see how parents get to sell the African dream. Ultimately, my approach would be, whether it's going to work or not, I don't know. We'll find out in about 15 years. My approach is to keep an open mind, be willing to learn as much as possible, because again, what I don't know far outweighs what I know. And then I'm very accepting that the world will still go around whether or not things go my way. So it's okay. And I'm also keenly aware that causing my kids pain only compounds the problems that we are navigating. So I'm not looking to cause them any pain even when we disagree. Well, again, thank you for listening. I hope this was any useful, but I'm really curious to learn, especially for those of you who are empty nesters, those who've raised all the kids. Feel free to share how you navigate these issues so that we can all learn from you. Well, thank you folks for listening, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.